Yeah, baby, it's episode 17 of The Whiners on January 16th, 2025. Jeff Norman and Ryan Milton with you. I'm very close to our nation's capital for some events this weekend. It's an inauguration weekend. Also,
4
Scott Ritter
days.
and Anya Kay are here, or going to be here for a big event at Busboys and Poets. There's going to be a peace ball Saturday night as one of the inauguration events. I'm looking forward to that. And the only thing that's not perfect is the lighting, but I guess it's good enough. How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing pretty good. Actually, I think your lighting is very artistic. It has a bit of a mood to it. So
It'll do in a pinch.
I
So
like
I know
it.
that I said, I finally, reluctantly gave in and said, I guess I can afford a little bit more to spend on wine than I've been spending. And that remains my stance, my new stance. However, I went to Trader Joe's earlier this week, and I said, you know what, I'm in the mood to try a Chilean wine. Will you recommend something? I said to one of the wine gurus there. He says, well, what do you like? I said, well, I like some complexity to it, something with a finish. And he recommended this, which is only $4.99. So I was like, all right, whatever. I'll postpone my willingness to spend more money and give this a shot. The Carmenere, if that's how to pronounce it, I guess is a wine. Is a grape they don't use all that often. Are you familiar with this?
No, actually, I'm totally not familiar with that wine. So do you get a good, is your mouth pucker a little bit? Some good tannins in that wine?
Yeah, it's not bad. I'm not thrilled with it, but whatever. We'll see. I opened it, I don't know, close to an hour ago, so it should be at its peak now. What are you drinking?
Well, so I am very honored. Edward, who is a supporter of Scott Ritter's and has been somebody I've been chatting back and forth with. He actually lives in Florida, but was in Grotfjord, Norway. And that's the picture of Edward there, actually. And he taught me how to say that with no accent. He picked up this Beringer Private Reserve 2016 there in Norway. Apparently it was, it's a pricey wine. And he sent it to me. He sent it to me.
It's nice of you to finally admit it.
Yeah.
It's the first time you've admitted that it's expensive.
Oh no.
So I assume he got a case of it for you for $2,100.
Yeah, he. I wish he had gotten me a case, but it is very good. Actually, it's one of these 99 ratings, and everybody said, "Well, you really should keep that on the shelf for a few more years." But actually, I opened it up, and it's really dark, and you can't even see through it, even up to a light, and it's got excellent flavors. It's really good. I don't know if it's $175 good, but it's definitely a tasty
What do you
one.
care? You didn't spend any money on it.
No, it was a very very nice gift. Oh, by the way, this is what people are saying. You've got that sepia hue to you. That's what it is. That's why I was saying artistic.
Sepia sounds like a disease.
Well, that's what Raider 2021 said. He thought you were sick and about to die.
Well, whatever. I can't help it. Anyway, let's bring in Jose. This is not only inauguration week, but the confirmation hearings are going on. And I'm seeing what Jose describes as interventions and various entertaining theatrical exchanges between Trump's nominees and our august senators. And I've seen some of it. I don't know about you guys. I saw Pam Bondi. I saw Pete Hegseth. I don't think I've seen any of the other ones, though. Not even all of those. How about you guys? What have you guys been watching?
You're in for a treat then, because they get better as they happened.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I thought the Max Blumenthal one was really good. The Sam Husseini one was particularly good for a different reason, and as we'll get to, he wasn't even trying to stand up and do a grandstanding thing. You'll you'll see in the video as a nice teaser.
Well, they were the provocateurs, but who was the nominee when they did their thing?
No. Max Blumenthal and Sam Husseini were just attending a press conference by Tony Blinken, one of his last ones.
Right.
Okay.
Jeff was talking about the confirmation hearings.
No, but that's okay. That's all right. I
these-
just didn't know what he was referring to. We can lump it all in together.
Well,
now
I mean,
understand what you're referring-
think about it.
I didn't see it, so I didn't know where they did their thing. But now I get it.
Yeah, and you also had Biden's farewell. But I saw the John Ratcliffe. Definitely want to talk about Biden's going away. I saw John Ratcliffe. He is the former director of national intelligence, is now supposed to be Trump's CIA director. And I did see parts of the Hegseth, and there were some others on transportation, but I think these are so far really the most interesting ones up to this point.
I like conflict, so I didn't bother watching Rubio. I figured there wouldn't be any conflict there. I figured that would be boring. Maybe I'm wrong, but anyway. So why don't we take a look at some video here? We've got Bondi going up against Pencil Neck Watermelon Head Schiff. He is one of the worst people on the face of the earth, and I loved how she not only didn't put up with his nonsense, but she went on the offense, which you don't see very often. So bravo to Pam Bondi. Let's take a look.
For it publicly. You are aware of that, aren't you?
No one has asked me to investigate.
But the president
Liz.
has
We're
called-
also
the
worried about
president-
Liz Cheney,
the
Senator.
president has
You know
called
what we
for
should
this-
be worried about?
Ms. Bondi,
the
please
crime rate
answer
in
my
California
questions.
right now
You
is
are
through
aware,
the roof.
Ms. Bondi,
Your robberies
Ms.
are
Bondi,
87%
my
higher
question-
than the national
my question
average.
is this.
That's what I
My
want to
question
be
is
focused
this.
on, Senator.
Do you have the
if I'm
power to
confirmed
say
as
no to the
Attorney
president?
General.
And what you're suggesting today by your non-answer is you don't have the independence to say no to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It also requires you, if you're going to be a good attorney general, to be able to tell hard truths to the president.
Hard
So my
truths.
questions now are, can you tell hard truths to the president? So let me start with an easy truth that you could speak to the president. Can you tell him that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election? Can you say that? Do you have the independence to say that? Do you have the gravitas?
See, that's such nonsense because everybody knows that Biden won officially. So what is he saying? It really is a gotcha question, as she put it.
It's a deadhead question.
Yeah, I mean, Trump doesn't need to be told that Biden won officially. That's pretty undisputed.
And what does
So-
it matter? He just is,
Yeah.
he's leaving now in less than 4 days.
Yeah. So he's treating it like it's an attorney general legal issue or something.
That's right. Well, actually,
It's the
there was.
stature of the-
Okay, keep going if
Okay.
you're gonna.
The intestinal fortitude to say, Donald Trump, you lost the 2020 election. Can you tell us that here today?
Senator, what I can tell you is I will never play politics. You're trying to engage me in a gotcha. I
No,
won't
I'm just
do it.
asking you a simple
I
question.
won't play
If you can
politics
speak truth
with any
to
ongoing
power.
investigation,
So let me ask you another.
like you did
let me-
leaking your
let me ask
colleague
you,
Devin Nunes's memo.
If you be able to
Ongoing
review
investigation.
hundreds of cases on day one,
I will look at every file I am
of
asked
course you
to
won't.
look
So
at.
will you advise the
Hey,
president?
can I
will
answer
you-
the question?
Well, my question
I would
is-
have plenty of staff. You said, of
Go,
course
Pam.
you want.
You'll be able to review
Listen, I'm
hundreds
not
of
going to
cases on the first
mislead
day?
this body nor you.
All right, let me ask another question. You don't want to answer that. Let me ask
You were
another question.
censured by
It will
Congress,
also-
Senator, for
it will
comments just
also-
like this that
It
are
will
so reckless.
it will also be important.
Now, look, it's not just that, though. Yes. Absolutely. It wasn't just him, though, because the gotcha thing was.
Oh yeah, but she handled it better than like Hegseth, for example. When it was actually a legitimate question. That he used to say that women aren't fit to serve in the military, or something close to that. And they're like, well, what accounts for your change of heart so suddenly? And I thought he did kind of a bad job of evading that one. So instead of sounding evasive like he did, she just goes on the offense. I like that.
However, I want to look at another clip from the same hearings with Pam Bondi because he's playing gotcha. She's shouting him down, but it almost reminds me of how these guys don't want people to have identification cards. Actually, it reminds me of like Jim Crow, where they where the way that they treat these candidates for office. Take a look at this one here.
Opportunity to study overnight. So can you tell me and this committee what the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment says?
Senator, I'm here to answer your questions. I'm not here to do your homework and
love
study for you. If I am confirmed as
You're
Attorney
the one
General...
asking for a confirmation
Hey,
vote,
you
ma'am.
cut me off. Can I please finish?
What does the 14th Amendment say?
Senator, the 14th Amendment, we all know, addresses birthright citizenship. I've been a state prosecutor. I've been a state AG. I look forward to, even given your remarks today, working with you and the people of California if I am confirmed as the 87th Attorney General of the United States of America.
Now, I like that because she also goes through her credentials. I don't have to recite the Constitution to you.
Plus, I think she knows the 14th Amendment. In other words, she wasn't saying that to cover up for her ignorance. She was just being combative as a strategy.
I would add that also, the thing about these kind of hearings is that, and she's right for actually not answering that question as to whether or not Biden won the presidency in 2020. And the reason, I know a lot of people are going to say, but it's water under the bridge. He won. Who cares? Trump won. It's not about that. It's like Adam Schiff is trying to wrestle her into a submission. It's like a humiliation ritual. It's like, oh, remember when you said it was a fraud? What happened in 2020? Well, I'm in control now, right? She's actually ego stripping him, and it's a good thing, because that guy's ego is like massive, right? And so when you fight back against that, right, even a question is so simple like that, it shows that she's in control, and that's what she's trying to do.
Yeah.
She's trying to
Good
retain
point.
her control.
Good point. It's one of the best things about the Trump era is that these tactics that have worked so effectively for so long no longer work so well, do they?
Exactly.
But, I think that if you think about the way that the Biden guys, the way that these Democrats have been working, their whole thing is, Trump is not qualified. All of these people around Trump, they're not qualified. They're not in this case of Trump, right? He's not presidential. There was the whole argument in the past that he would make the United States look bad internationally. So even though your criticisms of Hegseth are good, and there are things worth criticizing him about, I thought that one of the senators that was addressing this question of what makes you qualified is very worth checking out here. Take a look.
Could you tell me what the qualifications are for the Secretary of Defense?
I'd be happy
I'll read it.
for you to do that.
Yeah. Let me read it for you because I Googled
I
it.
was getting some advice from
I
my
understand
second
that.
in command.
Yeah, but I'm just making a point because there's a lot about qualifications. And I think it's so hypocritical of senators, especially on the other side of the aisle, be talking about his qualifications, not going to lead the secretary or be the Secretary of Defense, and yet your qualifications aren't any better. You guys aren't any more qualified to be the senator than I'm qualified to be the senator, except we're lucky enough to be here. But let me read you what the qualifications of the Secretary of Defense is, because I Googled it, and went through a lot of different sites, and really it's hard to see. But in general, the U.S. Secretary of Defense position is filled by a civilian.
Well, I guess he's qualified then.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. He's qualified to be that. And now
these guys are lawmakers, and some of them aren't even lawyers. So they're professional lawmakers, even if they don't have legal expertise. All you have to be is breathing, basically, to get elected.
Look at Zelensky over there in Ukraine. Sometimes funny guy. Trump has totally captured the populism of the population, and he is not a lawyer. Yeah. Right? But there's more to this, which I think gets more interesting.
That's it. If you have served in the U.S. Army Forces and have been in the service for, you have to be retired for at least 7 years, and Congress can weigh that. And then there's questions that the senator from Massachusetts brought up about serving on a board inside the military industry, and yet your own secretary that you all voted for, Secretary of Austin, we had to vote on a waiver because he stepped off the board of Raytheon. But you so quickly forget about that. And then the senator from Virginia starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No. But it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified?
I mean, what do you think?
He didn't even mention that they have this fund to pay off people who accuse them of sexual harassment. That would have been good to throw in while he's going over their
That
moral
would have been a
failures.
nice one.
Sometimes you just got to do enough to
Yeah,
say,
right.
you know.
It's gilding the lily just to keep throwing. Yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches. There are so many examples.
But, you know, the reason I liked what he had to say, I was thinking of you, Jose, because this question of what qualifies you to take leadership in the United States, right? You decided to run for Congress. You know, you've decided to go to Congress. Thankfully, you have, you know, Samantha, who has been on the show, at least called in now and then, and she has decided to kind of follow your lead. I mean, look at that. This question of qualifications, we could really have thousands of people, and should have, running for office, regardless of their official qualifications.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think, you know, that senator there made a very good point that, you know, half of these senators shouldn't even be up there, let alone should be anywhere in public. And yet here they are. A lot of them did get in that position for luck or for whatever blackmail that was put on them, you know. And I mean, I personally believe that you don't get to a position like that in an honest way today, right? I think you really have to go outside of the bounds. Like, you have to run as an independent in order to make it into one of these places through the quote unquote honest way. And if you do go into the machine, they always have some kind of blackmailing, you know, system on you, which is why he started saying, I know some of you have showed up drunk. There's probably a lot of worse things that we've seen come out of the Congress altogether. My favorite story is that guy who was in a wheelchair, I forget his name, who, you know, like the you know what I'm talking about? He was only one term, and he was like this Christian conservative guy. He goes in there, and like after 2 weeks of being elected, he said, why am I partying with, like, you know, the Speaker of the House and this prominent Republican and that prominent Republican who are like 60, 70 years old, and they're giving me cocaine and prostitutes. And so he blew the lid on the Congress, and suddenly old risky pictures of that guy resurfaced of him being a little too friendly with his, you know, male friends, and that got him out of the Congress. All because
Was that Madison Cawthorn?
There you go. That's it. That's it.
Yes. You dated Madison for a while, didn't you, Ryan?
No. No, sir. No.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing. We don't judge.
But, you know, hey, you know, the ordinary citizen has to say, this is why it sucked that I wasn't elected, but it's okay, you know. We're gonna try again.
Yet.
But
You
know,
will
I
eventually
mean, like,
be elected.
to be able to go into the floor of the Congress and just call everybody an idiot and a moron, and like that's what the American people are thirsty for. I mean, I don't have any intention of working, if I'm actually elected, with the other representatives, because they're all corrupt. My intention would be to replace it inside out. You know, we break the flood and we replace the entire government with people who we can trust. Not that we would agree with on every point, but that we can trust. That's a real representative government.
See, that's similar to the way I fantasize too, Jose. I mean, I've never actually run, but I have fantasized about, like, if I were there, would I find it rewarding, worthwhile, to just tell the truth, like the Truman Show or something like that, you know, where you really you really just accept that it's going to be an extremely unpleasant situation. You know, you would have to endure a lot of hostility if that were the case. The other thing that argues against that kind of an approach would be you're not going to really accomplish very much if you can't cooperate with your fellow lawmakers. But you're pretty confident.
What is being accomplished now?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what would be accomplished if you were there. Maybe by the time you're there, it will be possible. I don't know.
Well, but I'm making the point that
Yeah.
for the last 50 years, everything's just been getting worse. Since the time I've been born, I was in perpetual war. I was born in 98, right? By the
was
time
like
I
What
was,
about
yesterday.
somebody like Matt Gaetz? He is somebody who has been pretty antagonistic.
yeah, and look what
Right,
happened.
and
They took him out.
Well, they didn't take him out of Congress. They only took him out of, being nominated for Attorney General. But
Yeah, because they pulled out all
they
the
tried to
stops.
take him out. They tried to take. No, but what I'm getting at is I'm not really all that familiar with his legislative record, but I think he's a guy who kind of struck that balance that I'm talking about. He was very antagonistic, but he did still, accomplish some things, and he was cooperative with some of his colleagues to some extent. So that's what I'm asking you to do, to compare his whole approach with the way you would do it.
I mean, I would probably be like Matt Gaetz on drugs.
No, it's the same thing. That's redundant.
he,
Oh,
he did that thing where he did a coup against the Speaker of the House. That coup is calling it maybe not the right word, but that makes it actually. Who was going to do that? AOC was supposed to do that when she came into the Congress. She was supposed to hold the speakership from Nancy Pelosi hostage and said, I'm not going to vote you in. Me and the rest of the squad aren't going to vote you in unless you bring Medicare for all to the floor. Did they do that? No, they folded. They folded.
right.
They folded because they're cowards, right? So Matt Gaetz comes in and does the strategy, and they actually got stuff out of it, which is
Well,
why that
yeah.
Matt Gaetz had a target on his back ever since. But
And
Yeah.
what's interesting is that here you have the administration that
God,
brings
what is
people like Admiral Rachel Levine into the government, and yet they go around, like with Matt Gaetz, like with Pete Hegseth, pointing the finger. Oh, you've done something bad, which whatever they claim with some of these guys is largely. It's just scandal. It's hearsay. It's hard to prove any of this stuff. So that it's like this distraction, like he was saying. It's a show, so that you don't actually think of the more important policies. That's the whole thing with. I saw this on X with the California fires, and Jose, you might know something about this, but if there was a plan from the '60s, the North American Water and Power Alliance, which we should probably talk about in some future edition of this show. Huge water project. But I saw somebody else talking about this on X. There would be enough water to deal with these fires, to deal with the climate, all kinds of conditions. But all of these things are just kind of left on the shelf. They're not even discussed. So that would be, if I were you and I were elected to office, if I was in that position, I would insist that these are the things that we have to talk about. Or, we still haven't dealt with that Palestine, Ohio train wreck and the effects of that, for example. Those things are just kind of forgotten.
Yes.
See, I think Trump also kind of embodies this approach of trying to strike a balance of, taking on the status quo, whether you call it the deep state or whatever you want to use, the surveillance state, this and that. But at the same time, his belief, it seems to me, is he's got to also, in order to be effective, work with some of the the deep staters, so to speak. And many of us were disappointed with his first term, like he didn't pardon Julian Assange and, various things. That's just one example. And I'm always torn between should we criticize him for that, or should we appreciate that he's going further than anybody has before? And, he made it. I mean, he got elected, so he must know what he's doing to some extent. What do you think about the
but
way Trump strikes that balance between
that's
rocking
the,
the boat and playing along with the status quo?
the only reason Trump seems good, and hey, don't get me wrong. I mean, if it's true that Wickoff really did put the pressure on Netanyahu and said "F your Sabbath" and got the ceasefire before even being sworn in, yeah. But like, the problem is our bar for what makes a good president. If like Lincoln is up here, or FDR or Kennedy is up here, we have had just so many crappy presidents that the bar for a good president right now is someone who can speak in a complete sentence and not fall asleep.
Well, that's
Right.
true.
So when Trump does something that's like just, a little bit above that, it's like, oh my God, this is a revolution. It's like, well, I think, yeah, for anybody who doesn't really know too much history, or for people who have just gone through so much turmoil, and hey, anybody who's older than I am is going to say, hey, for once in the country, we might have a leader who actually is going to do something for us. I can understand the measure of a good president. But looking at it objectively, do I think Trump is like doing a good job right now balancing the deep state? I guess it took him a term to learn who to trust and not to trust. And even then, we're still yet to see what actually happens. But I think he's a little more committed to rooting out the corruption. But that being said, we are not in ideal circumstances either, right?
Yeah.
We are only at we are in a fascist Nazi Germany state, right? So we are in something we should not be in. That doesn't mean that we're not in the golden age. We're not in a Pax Americana. We're just being pulled out slowly of fascism, maybe. And that'll bring us to a place where it's not elevated, but it's hopefully not this oligarchical fascist takeover. It's what makes the difference between like the American Revolution and the French Revolution. The American Revolution worked because you took out the monarchy and you actually had ideas that would found a nation. Whereas the French Revolution was, hey, we are going to we're going to get out all of the bourgeois people. We're going to, behead the king, and that's it. They didn't have anything to replace it with. So it's just pure mob madness. There were no ideas behind it. And so right now, what we're at a point where we can either be the American Revolution or we can be the French Revolution. And I'm afraid we're tipping towards the French Revolution over the American Revolution.
And also in Mali, I think they threw the French out. Speaking of the French, was it Mali?
Burkina Faso?
No, Burkina Faso. That's what I was thinking. They threw and then they've started to nationalize assets that these foreign corporations had, like the gold, and I think there was one. I think it was Burkina Faso with the uranium, right? So they're saying, okay, you countries are going to have to pay the going rate. We're not going to bend over. So, of course, countries like that, historically, when they start saying we are going to assert that these resources are the property of our people, of our nation, that's when leaders get assassinated. That's when your CIA.
Well, that's kind of what I was trying. Yeah, I mean, would Trump get assassinated, or just simply not get elected, or in some sense not even be successful if he were more in the direction that you want, Jose? So it's a slight. I mean, in other words, I don't dispute your characterization that it's kind of like a high jump over a low hurdle when he's taking only baby steps in the direction you want him to go. But I'm asking a slightly different question, which is, well, if he went stronger in the direction you want him to go, would it actually work? I mean, here we had him nominate Matt Gaetz, and he seemed to be quite serious about wanting Gaetz to kick ass as Attorney General, and then he got the message, no, he's not going to get confirmed, forget it. Now we're going to see if we can get Tulsi. We are going to see if Tulsi Gabbard gets confirmed, if RFK gets confirmed. Could he go more in the direction you want?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's the other thing about Trump is that kind of guy who operates on deals, right? Mm-hmm. And he's not going to backstab the people who got him in power. And I think that that's good and bad. I think that's why he got the ceasefire, because in Michigan, the Muslim leaders said, we'll get you the vote. They got him the vote. And before even becoming president, he gets a ceasefire deal. He says, I got you a ceasefire. Now, when it comes to with the nominees and stuff, do I think Tulsi Gabbard would be able to be nominated right now if Trump decided to go harder and said, you know what, you all suck, all you senators are rotten and corrupt, and when your terms are up, I'm going to make sure you get out? Yeah, he's not getting the cabinet he wants. He is not going to get the cabinet he wants, and you are right, and that's what I'm saying. Right?
Yeah.
We don't have an ideal government right now where the nominations would be.
Okay, we're not really disagreeing. We're just sort of giving a little different emphasis to these same points.
But see, that comes to the question of qualifications. Therefore, we are qualified, we the people, to insist that Donald Trump actually carry out on those promises and desires that people elected him to do.
And the nominees themselves, by the way, are backpedaling, right? Hegseth with the women in the military, and Tulsi Gabbard with her opposition to, what was it, the Surveillance Act?
Yeah, the FISA Section 5726 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, as Hassan says in the chat, the ceasefire is not yet signed. Actually, I think it fell apart, at least temporarily, today.
All the better for Trump. He'll iron out the rough spots in a few days.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, Ben-Gvir, I think, threatened to leave the party is what happened. And, they're saying Hamas is, having last-minute complications, but Hamas has said, no, we're ready to go. So I think...
Is this like a Nixon goes to China thing with Trump, in the sense that he's been such a strong proponent of Israel that puts him in a position to push harder at Netanyahu?
Look,
Is that
I don't...
a bad analogy?
I don't know.
This is something that baffles me, because I don't know why the hell Trump could get away with bullying Netanyahu. I really don't. He took all his money from the Adelsons, and, it seemed like he was their guy.
Yeah.
And to do this, I mean, it was... But
he played that. He posted that video on Truth Social the other day of Jeffrey Sachs saying that
because
Netanyahu is a terrible son of a bitch, evil bastard, or whatever.
I don't think Trump wants bloodshed on his presidency. I think he wants to actually be seen as a peacemaker. Yeah. That's why Putin is saying, let me meet with Trump. I want to sit down with Trump. That's why he's saying, I want a ceasefire signed by the time I get into office. And he's flexing his muscle, and he's basically reminding Netanyahu, no, I'm in charge. I am not Biden, okay?
But see, he can make that call with Netanyahu. He's not going to be able to make that call to Putin. He could to Zelensky, however.
Yeah, but he knows that. I think he knows that.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm just saying there's your roadmap in that action. Assuming that he actually played that role, there you go. He just needs to continue putting that pressure on. That Trump-style pressure is exactly the way to get the deal, like you're saying, and shut this stuff down.
And that's the problem, though. It's the whole art of the deal. That's how he does politics, right? Which is like why Trump would never think about even going beyond the "all you all suck," because that's not who he is. He really has a more, what he would say, realistic view. I would say a cynical view of how things are done. He's like, it's Washington, it's deals. He's worked in the real estate business here in New York. He grew up in it. He understands the corruption and how it gets things to work, right? So that's just, he's good at operating the government and the environment it's in right now. And I'm saying that's not a sustainable model.
Yeah. Okay.
Now it's funny.
Well, let's talk about some of these disruptions that we've been seeing, especially since that's your whole forte, Jose. I'm dying to find out what your assessment is. Which one should we start with?
Oh, we have. Why don't we do this one? Yeah, let's kick that one up.
300 reporters in Gaza were on the receiving end of your bombs. Why did you keep the bombs flowing when we had a deal in May? We all knew we had a deal. Everyone in this room knows we had a deal, Tony, and you kept the bombs flowing. Why did you sacrifice the rules-based order on the mantle of your commitment to Zionism? Why did you allow my friends to be massacred? Why did you allow my friends' homes in Gaza to be destroyed when we had a deal in May? You helped destroy our religion, Judaism, by associating it with fascism. You waved the white flag before Netanyahu.
We'll have the time to take questions at the end.
You waved the white flag before Israeli fascism.
We'll have the time to take questions
Your
at the end.
Your father-in-law was an Israel lobbyist. Your grandfather was an Israel lobbyist. Are you compromised by Israel? Why did you allow the Holocaust of our time to happen? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide? You too, Matt. You smirk through the whole thing every day. You smirk through a genocide.
Thank you.
Oh. So the only complaint I have is he wasn't being choked to death like you have been, Jose.
Oh, stop.
All right. So
But
what's
still.
your assessment of the way Max took advantage of this opportunity?
I
do a
thought,
good job? Did he do a good job? And why do you think he did it the way he did it?
I think, well, because this is Blinken's like going away tour, basically, right? It's the last 4 days. You're not trying to convince this guy of anything. And when historians look back, when people look back on this event, right? Because the Biden presidency is historic already, whether or not we understand it, right? Like I can see myself being 50 years old, 60 years old, and there's going to be people asking me, whoa, you lived through the Biden administration? And that clip in particular, the end of the Biden administration, will be seen, I think, forever, because that perfectly encapsulates who Blinken is and was during this administration. And so this will be his reputation and his legacy. Blinken, I think, knows that to a certain extent, may not be completely conscious of it because he's not the kind of guy to think about the future. But, you know, I
So
think
Max knew he wasn't going to get answers to the questions. He basically was heckling him. You know, he was firing 10 questions in a row at him, knowing that none of them would be answered. And you're saying you might as well do that because he's not going to answer the questions.
Exactly. Yeah. And like it was.
But he got in though. How do these things work? How does somebody like Max Blumenthal get in? They must.
Is he as a journalist?
Well, yeah, he's a journalist, and
I'm not saying he shouldn't be. I'm not. Believe me, I don't mean to diminish him at all. I'm saying they might look at him as somebody who they wouldn't want to be there. Is he normally able to get into these kind of things?
Well, I would say that, yeah, you can actually. I remember talking to somebody who told me that in these press briefings, you can say you're with whoever, and usually they're pretty lax at letting you in. And Sam Husseini, the guy who I'd like to show next, I have the video here, and Max Blumenthal and others tend to get in, and you know it's usually agreed upon that
So
we'll
it's
let
not
you
that
in.
hard. Okay. So it's not like at the White House where you gotta go through the White House press corps and there's way more people trying to get access than they get.
Yeah, but even then, like a friend of mine, Liam Cosgrove, I think he's known for having gone off on Matt Miller. And, you know, now he wasn't allowed back in there again. But, you know, and I was told, like, yeah, you can say you're anybody. And you're with whatever agency. Like,
but
I'm
they
with the
won't call
Winers. I'm with the Winers.
That'll be
I'd like
very
to- I'm
prestigious.
letting
Right this way, the Winers, right up front. I
Yeah,
mean,
so-
but then they won't call on you. So then you'll have to either just sit there and say nothing or resort to heckling because they won't call on you.
That's why what some people do, especially if you're like an independent media guys, you wait. So you come back over and over and over again. You make yourself known. Then you become a presence, and then maybe they'll allow
That
you.
seems like the worst job
Right.
possible. Like imagine you're like a serious journalist, and all you do is go and sit there and be ignored time after time again. What a horrible existence.
Absolutely. Can I play this next
Yeah,
one?
play it.
Well, hold it.
Yeah.
Before you do,
Yeah.
what's your grade for Max Blumenthal on how he handled the situation?
A minus.
Oh, what's the
should've-
minus for?
You
What
should
could
have
have
put
been better?
You should have put more flair. You should have sat down or something. I don't know. That's the only thing. You got to prolong these things. That's the other part of the drama is you prolong it.
All right.
It's a
From
drama.
The king
No,
of
no, that's a-
interventions. He's
no,
not
that's a
gonna
good
give
point,
an
though.
A+.
It's-
yeah.
Yeah, it's a drama because you really have to capture people's soul.
Yeah, I think if he you know, I mean, but you know, he got his point across. That's you know, he got his point across. That's true. But you know, I'm saying it was like sit your butt down and you stay in there as long as you can. I mean, if that was me, you know, first of all, it's pretty hard to get me out of a room to begin with. You know, that's where the extra mass is very helpful. But also,
Max
but also,
is a
you don't.
father now. He can't go to jail if you know when he's a father. You could go sit in jail for a
Well,
while and
it wouldn't be jail. It would be, right? It would be like
Well, it depends.
injuring somebody.
Yeah, no. Most of the time, they'll just take you. They don't like 99% of the time you won't be arrested. The worst they'll do is put you in handcuffs till you're outside, and then they'll be like, "All right, get out of here."
Yeah.
It's only if you do
Ouch.
something.
I don't like the handcuffs because they put them on tightly. I had them on me once.
That's not what you told me.
What did I tell you?
Stop it.
No.
he's talking
Jeff.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
No, I got arrested for doing I got arrested for doing a hidden camera prank, and the worst part of it was the handcuffs were just way too tight, and there was like my flesh was indented like a half an inch for 5 days afterwards. All right, so what's the next piece of video you're going to show us? This is Sam Hussein, or is it?
This is
Hussein
Sam
or
Husseini, same target, same day. This is after Max did what he did. And the way I want to set this up is that, like, Sam didn't stand up and do what Max did. Sam actually had asked questions before in this same session and just waited. You know, he just sat down. He's being nice. And then suddenly the security come and they try to pull him away.
The names of those who have been arbitrarily detained.
So you'll see. You'll hear him in just a second.
Unjustly held hostage.
That's Tony Blinken talking. And you see Sam Husseini is just like, what do you mean I gotta
Get your hands
go?
off me. Get your hands off me.
He was filming
Get your
you
hands off me.
before.
Get your hands off me. Answer a damn question.
I look
Do you
forward
know
to
about the
asking
Hannibal
questions in
Directive?
minutes.
Do you know about Israel's nuclear weapons? Everybody from the ICJ. I was sitting here quietly, and now I'm being manhandled by 2 or 3 people. You pontificate about a free press. You pontificate about a free press. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. I'm asking questions after being told by Matt Miller that he will not answer my questions until I ask him
Please, sir,
questions.
respect the process.
Wasn't the point of the May 31st statement to block the ICJ orders? You blocked the ICJ orders.
Please, sir, respect the process.
Respect the process. Respect the process. While everybody from Amnesty International. From Amnesty International to the ICJ saying that Israel's doing genocide and extermination, you're telling me to respect the process. Criminal, why aren't you in The Hague? Why aren't you in The Hague?
Very good.
Why aren't you in The Hague?
Finally.
So
Oh, and then he just goes on to his speech.
I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry. You might have said it already, Jose, and I missed it. I don't understand. This guy was being polite. So why did they come up and drag him out?
exactly. I think it was because in the other video that Ryan pulled up, the one
He was videoing you, Max.
Yeah, so I think you can
You
see
waved
it
the white flag before
Hold on.
here.
Israeli
Hold on.
We'll have the
fascism.
time to take
Right
questions.
there.
at the end.
Father-in-law.
Oh, there you
was
go.
an
Yeah, right there. The
Israel
guy
Right there.
Grandfather.
You see
Stop.
That's Sam. Yeah, he's
Right.
Israel-
So how much time was it between that moment and when they dragged him out? Do you know?
probably not. I don't know. Probably couldn't have been any longer, but then 5-10 minutes afterwards.
See, I've said this to you before. I don't understand why sometimes when security guards act inappropriately, whether it's too rough or whether the reason for ejecting them isn't valid, you don't hear very much about people going on the offense against these people. So their job, I guess, is to remove people who are misbehaving. But it seems to me that Sam Husseini might have a cause of action against these people because he was not misbehaving.
He was not, and that may be something he may want to look into. I mean, maybe the rules are slightly different when you're at the Capitol. I know the Capitol Police kind of operate somewhat differently because I heard they have
Maybe
the same.
get a rule against videotaping somebody on your phone.
I don't know. I mean, like in terms of when they can pull you out or not, because here in New York, and this is true in most states, only the police are allowed to remove you from a premises, right?
Yeah.
If some rent-a-cop came up to me and said, you got to go, and then he just picked me up and took me out, that would be illegal. But if the proper procedure is they have to ask me a few times to leave, and when I say no, then they call the police. And even then, they still can't arrest you because then the police will come and they'll say, okay, sir, they've asked you to leave. Are you going to leave? You say no once, they say, okay, I'm going to ask you one more time, and if you say no, I will arrest you. At that point, they're allowed to arrest you. But
So, I mean, one thing is if he's filming Jose and he's a known activist, I forget just off the top of my head, the woman from Code Pink.
Medea Benjamin?
Medea Benjamin, right? So I mean, he's famous. He's a famous activist and writer, Sam Husseini. She's famous. So,
But he's sat in many of these briefings before.
I know, and clearly he's sitting there like he has some kind of an invitation or permission, whatever, to be there.
Right.
So
I had this happen to me actually many years ago when Donald Rumsfeld was the Secretary of Defense. I had press credentials, and the Gold Star parents wanted to meet with him, and he wouldn't meet with them. So he does his event, and on the way out, he's walking up the aisle, and I'm in this area where I had press credentials. All I did was I called out, "Why, Mr. Rumsfeld, why won't you meet with Gold Star parents?" That's all I said. And these security guards pounced on me and dragged me out. And I was like, I went on the offense. I couldn't get any witnesses or people who might have videotaped it to show any evidence of it, but that's what I was thinking. How dare you attack me and drag me out for just speaking?
So, look, I think we're making some very interesting points here, and as you said, this was his going away presentation, and a lot of the grandstanding that we've seen in the Senate confirmation is largely kind of a continuation of that. I think it's worth looking from the standpoint of what you, Jeff, and Jose are talking about at some of Biden's so-called farewell, drug-induced farewell last night, because I think the drugs kicked in much like about halfway through. But I think what he says...
And you know what? The other thing that's worth pointing out that I think just underscores your point is that it wasn't even live. So this was a recorded speech. So they had every opportunity to make sure he was at his best, and they could get the recording right before they released it. And
it starts off. It's a little. You got to listen very closely because he sounds drunk immediately. So just listen closely.
I don't know if drunk.
I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern. This is a dangerous concentration, and that's a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people. And the dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked. Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence.
Whoa, wait a second. He just figured this shit out after giving the Medal of Freedom to George Soros and having more billionaires contribute to his presidential campain. Great. I'm glad
This is like his Eisenhower speech.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
No. He actually quotes Eisenhower in this speech.
He wants to do something of historical importance like that. That's exactly what's going on. Yeah.
So listen a little more here.
It's so transparent and such a miserable failure.
It's not even as good as W. Bush.
That literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. I'm equally concerned about the potential rise of a tech industrial complex that could pose real dangers for our country as well. Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation, enabling the abuse of power. The free press is crumbling.
Abuse of power, end of quote. Next line. I mean, give me a break. Abuse of power? Look at what these guys have been doing, spying on Americans, taking away people's passports. It's really rich here.
Editors are disappearing. Social media is giving up on fact-checking.
Oh, no.
The truth is smothered by lies told for power and for profit. We must hold the social platforms accountable to protect our children, our families, and our very democracy from the abuse of power.
Right.
What is this? You can't even complete a sentence.
He can't. He has to slur through it. But I mean, these guys were threatening the social media platforms, which I have a problem with them for sure, and free speech. Threatening that if they did not go along with removing information that they didn't like, with being basically shut down. How is that?
This is not the kind of free speech that I know of.
We all have a special free speech.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, artificial intelligence is the most consequential technology of our time, perhaps of all time. Nothing offers more profound possibilities and risks for for our economy and our security, our society. Unless safeguards are in place, AI could spawn new threats to our rights, our way of life, to our privacy, how we work, and how we protect our nation. We must make sure AI is safe and trustworthy.
Before he came on with this, so I definitely want to get your views. It was right then when he quoted Eisenhower and the military-industrial complex, and then he went into this thing on the AI.
Wow.
But imagine he's saying that's the most consequential thing.
Yeah, he almost pronounced the word correctly, too. Almost.
I might have
I'd
voted
rather
for him.
listen to Elon Musk just talk off the top of his head while he's lying down in bed holding up a phone to his mouth or something. It would be more illuminating, more worthwhile than this guy. Trying to make
Artificial
historical
insemination. Oh, my God. That was a good one. That was a good one.
All right. Well, tomorrow night we're going to do Ask the Inspector, and Scott Ritter is doing a mini tour, 3 events with Anya Kay. The first of which was last night in the Bronx, and the event was moderated by a young man I like to call Jose Vega, and the reason I like to call him Jose Vega is because that's his name, and it seems appropriate.
It fits.
That's right. That's what I got there.
That's right.
What can you tell us, just to give us a little taste of how it went last night, and then we can get into it more deeply tomorrow night, Jose?
Well, it was really good Italian food, a really good atmosphere, and a pretty tense Q&A, actually. I was the moderator, and we started the Q&A. So we gave people about an hour to eat dinner. So from 6:30 to 7:30, nice Italian dinner. Cannolis came out. It was delicious. It was very good. 7:30. I say, okay, 7:30. We'll go till about 8:45 or so to leave some time, maybe 9 at the latest for book signing. But man, Anya can give some very long answers. I thought Scott was the problem too, but they both are. Anya and Scott, I just asked, so what made you get into podcasting? And then I get like a whole life story. Wow. And it was just like incredible and interesting. And then I'm like, okay, Scott, what got you to this point? And then like you started to talk about when he first joined the Marines to today, like his whole story was just like, and then I look at my watch and it's already 8:20. I'm like, oh, okay. So we should probably get to Q&A. I'm going to ask one more question. I asked about the mixed media, how the QR codes and the books and stuff. And he gave a really good answer on that. And then the Q&A started, and, he gave some answers that some people didn't agree with. Some people thought, and it kind of divided the crowd to the point that I had to take the microphone from Scott because he just kept going back and forth at them. And I said, okay. This is not a call and response. Let's have some order again. This was my role in being a moderator. So it was a lot of fun, and I would like to be at the next 2 as well. I'm
here in Washington. I'd like nothing better than for you to show up and to hang out with you.
You going to be there, Jose?
Maybe. We'll see. If it were the case that I were to go anywhere, I would like to not announce my travel plans ahead of time. So maybe I will go. Maybe I won't go. We'll see. Yeah.
You might fly. You might drive.
Well, don't worry, Jose. Washington is already a hot place. So
yes.
I don't know that the whole security situation is going to change because you come here. This is inauguration weekend. And I'm staying, actually, I'm not going to say specifically where, but I'm staying in Virginia. Not too far from D.C., but rather than stay right in the heart of it. And I'm really happy with that decision. You and I were in the same hotel when we did the event, the National Press Club, which is a good hotel. But as I was saying to Ryan earlier today, there's something about these trendy hotels in big cities like Washington and New York that's really annoying. Aside, nobody wants to pay an arm and a leg, and you have to pay an arm and a leg. But then you get the attitude on top of it. And then, especially in New York, you get these tiny, tiny rooms, and they act like they're doing you a favor, letting you stay there. So I'll tell you where I'm staying when we're off the air, so to speak.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. I couldn't be happier about it.
Jeff, we had the tiny rooms in New York because our budget couldn't accommodate.
They were expensive. That was a very upscale, expensive
but that's
hotel.
because it's New York. But
That's
there are
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
yeah, there
Part
are
of it
others.
was the migrants too are taking up a lot of the spaces in the hotels. So part of the problem, and so that's why the demand is skyrocketing and the supply is going down. So, yeah.
I don't know. All I know is I'm surrounded here by friendly people, and I didn't even have a desk in the room, and I'm there for a few days, need to do some work, and they don't even provide a desk. How can you sit there and work without a desk?
So
no closet either.
No closet. Oh yeah.
They have
That
hooks.
desk was about that big, I think. Actually,
It wasn't a desk. It was like something like the size of a laptop that you could put a laptop on. But that doesn't leave you any room to write anything. And there's a hook on the wall instead of a closet. And that was about $800 a night for that. It's crazy. Anyway.
So, did you film any of last night?
It was all filmed and recorded, and I know somebody asked if they're going to be available online. Yes, it's just a matter of clipping the clips together.
Right.
I recorded it in an MTS format. I didn't realize that Premiere Pro doesn't like MTS, so I have been converting them through Handbrake to MP4, and they recorded it in 25-minute segments. But it's coming.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know, that it's such a great treat for the audience who wasn't there to see people who they see all the time on podcasts anyway. What I think is the treat is for the people who were there.
In
Because
presence.
there's nothing like being in person. You get to meet other like-minded people, kindred spirits. You get to meet Scott and Anya. You get great food. That's what's special. I'm not sure. It might be more of a tease to say, "Hey, see what you missed. See what you missed."
But it's
you
true.
tell me, Jose. Were there things said that aren't typically said on the podcast, or what?
It's not that they would be said on the podcast. It's the way that they're provoked and the environment that they're in.
Yeah.
Make it so that it's a more immersive experience, and it really made me realize the limitation of podcasting. You don't get to
You don't have that energy. There's no substitute for the energy of actually being with people.
Absolutely. I mean, when I first started doing live streaming with people, I did theater as a kid and in high school, and to not have immediate audience reaction, I always like to play the funny role. When you make a joke and nobody laughs, it's like, was it funny? So, and thank you. That made me feel better.
Is my time? Even though
Your
we're not in the
your
same
timing
room,
was good.
My timing is good. Thank you.
Very, very good.
All right. Well, tomorrow night, Scott Ritter and yours truly will be with you on Ask the Inspector, as we always are. But in addition to that, we'll have Anya Kay, and we'll have Jose Vega, and we'll talk more about what happened in the Bronx and what will be happening this weekend in Washington and next week in Poughkeepsie. And Ryan Milton, the very muscular yet strangely effeminate Ryan Milton, will also be with us. So it's almost too much, but we're going to try to cram it all in.
2 hours, short 2 hours.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before we say goodbye? Hugs,
I think,
kisses, anything?
Let's see. I mean, look, when we get together next Thursday, it'll be a completely different country.
Maybe so.
Maybe
and
so.
we will be with you next Thursday, as usual, for episode 18 of The Whiners, every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
There's going to be so much winning, I think, by next week that we're going to be tired of winning. So,
do I detect a note of sarcasm?
Winning and whining.
There's just going to be so much whining next week that, we're going to be tired of whining.
On the other hand, it did come out to be true that there was a hostage deal even before he came into office. So
I know
it's not all hot air.
I will only be impressed if I wake up January 21st and gas prices are $1 a gallon, eggs are $1 again, and
but that will be because of Joe Biden. because of what he did.
Right.
Well,
It just puts
gas prices haven't gone up in a while. They're not bad right now.
They've been they've been trying to keep him down, but
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's been up because of the excitement around Trump. You see, the gas prices are happy.
I don't know where I am. They haven't gone up at all. It's under $3. If it's under $3, I'm happy.
under $3 where you are, that's pretty good.
It's under $3 where I'm at. Well, it teeters. It teeters. Sometimes it's above 3. Sometimes it's under 3.
Yeah, that's the psychological barrier. If it goes over 3, I get unhappy. I want it.
We're at about 325, but that's cheaper than Phoenix, Arizona, which is closer to 4, and California, which the heck.
You know, say what you want about Bush, but at least gas was cheap under him.
Yeah.
So.
Well.
All right. Well, in other words, you can afford to drive to Washington, at least gas. I don't know if you can.
That's
afford
what I'm
hotel,
hearing.
but
That's
you
what
can
I'm
afford to
hearing.
drive. Yeah. All right. Let's talk off air about where you might stay, and we'll see if we'll have a spontaneous last-minute rendezvous. Take care, everybody. See you next week.